Hey, it's Cathy Johnson, and we're here for Yes, I Can Living, the podcast for and about entrepreneurial women. We're talking business with a dash of life, love, health, wealth, and faith. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to Yes, I Can Living. I am so excited to record today's podcast episode because guess what? I don't know, it depends if you're watching or not. Got a big announcement. I am bringing Mark Johnson onto the podcast today. So he actually is my husband. He is a coach. And in 2026, he is coming into the business. We are doing it together. Yes, I Can Living. So I thought rocking off the new year with this announcement and sharing on the first official podcast of 2026 would be a great opportunity to introduce him to you, what it is he's doing, explain the whole, he's a StrengthsFinder coach, so explain what StrengthsFinder is all about if you've never heard about it, and then how it can actually impact you in your business by knowing what this is all about. So, Mark, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Oh, this is so much fun. So I keep putting it out there. You're jumping in the business. We've added you to the website. We're doing some things together. We're kind of exploring. So, how are you feeling about jumping into the business together?
Well, I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens out of this. We've known each other for 3.5 years, and we're just celebrating our second wedding anniversary. And we have talked a lot about my coaching that I do and your coaching that you do, and some events and retreats and what kinds of things should we do together. And so we've landed on something with me being a little more active in my StrengthsFinder coaching to see what might connect and work. So I always like being around you and working with you, so this should be fun.
Well, you've been such a huge support. And our relationship, I think when we met, and some people who follow me for a while know, we actually met on eHarmony. And you actually had your strengths listed in your bio on eHarmony, which was one of the things that attracted me to you because I knew exactly what that was. I knew what mine were. And we'll talk about it in a second, but we had some similarities in those too. But so for me, I first came across StrengthsFinder probably 15 years ago when my business coach introduced it to me and the group we were in. And she actually had us all read the book and take the assessment. And it was such an eye-opener because you look at it and you're like, okay, that is me. Wow. Okay, so now what? So what about you? When did you first discover StrengthsFinder and why did you step into it?
Yeah, I was just looking at the report this morning that reminded me the date was actually back in 2005, so 20 years ago.
20 years ago, wow.
I was working as an exec at a financial institution, and we ran across this tool as a way to help develop our employees and to build teams. But it was an eye-opening thing for me as an individual, is probably the more powerful thing, in that it really gave me a good handle on how I'm wired and how I'm gifted. And I had the same kind of response that you did when I looked at that first report, and I went, oh, this is me. And in fact, I like the me that this shows. And so it's been really helpful for me in business and building teams and working in coaching, but also in my personal life. When somebody asks me to do something, to volunteer for something, to take on a new involvement, I'll oftentimes think of what my strengths are. And if it's something that's way outside of my area of higher strengths, then I can just feel comfortable saying, that's probably not the best thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, it's always great to have those kind of tools to be able to look and I use StrengthsFinder, I use my spiritual gifts assessment. There's a bunch of things that all work together too. But let's jump over to the idea of what does it actually mean to live and lead from our strengths. So, for example, I'd love to give some real world examples. So I'm willing to, throw myself under the bus here. And share some of those things, right? So my top 5, and that's what StrengthsFinder talks about, is the top 5. There's 34 of them. Strategy is my number 1. Positivity is my number 2. Winning others over is my number 3. Includer is 4, and belief is 5. And for anybody who knows me, even myself, it's like, wow, okay, those are absolutely. I'm all about strategy. I'm all about belief, as my faith being my number 1 value, actually. But what does it mean to actually live and lead from that place? When I look at those, would you take a dive into a little bit of that and maybe use one of my strengths and how it would actually work, and how it can actually benefit you and how you're leading and how you're loving and how you're in relationships. And yeah, would you do that?
Overall, the premise of StrengthsFinder is that we will do better. We will be more satisfied, more joyful, more productive, more effective if we work out of the areas of strength that we are inherently wired to have. And so people are going to look different as they have different profiles. Not that they can't do the same jobs, be successful, but they're going to do it from a different place of their strengths. Whereas I grew up pretty much always focusing on my weaknesses. And StrengthsFinder says, don't do that. So these 34 themes of talent, they call them, and get ranked. And then you develop them into real true strengths by using them and being intentional about that. In your case, Cathy, we actually share more of these themes than anybody I've ever met. That's not why we're together, because I believe people with entirely different profiles can have wonderful relationships together. But in our case, we happen to share 3 out of the top 5 and 7 out of our top 10. And so it has been fun to watch you work and for us to talk and relate. We both have strategic as one of our top 2. I've got to watch you. Strategic is defined as somebody who can identify multiple alternative scenarios and then to select the best from among those. And so in your case, I get to watch you as you come across a situation or a client that you're coaching, and you are really good inherently at sizing up the situation, looking for patterns or behaviors or themes, and then looking for a number of alternatives for moving forward, and then helping to select the best from among them. In your case, in the stuff that you work on for your life, you actually get to make those choices. When you're working with a coaching client, what you get to do is put some of them out there, help them to ask the right questions to evaluate for themselves the alternative that they want to select in moving forward. And it's fun to watch that happen. It's life-changing for people if we use our strengths to their greatest ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I think it's, I've been, as you know, Mark, I'm the end of last year and kind of looking at, relaunching Yes, I Can Living and making some changes and bringing you into the business and all that. And I ended up pulling out, I mentioned this to you, I ended up pulling out the branding stuff that I had done like 12 years ago or so, with a woman, Kelly Lucente, and we had taken a deep dive for 2 days into what I stand for and who I am and how I wanted to show up. And she uses these as well. And so even looking at some of those unique value proposition statements that we'd come up with, and putting that strategic in there, right, and how I work with people and and meeting them where they are, but also helping them figure out what's next. And, it really, I think, can really be a tool for somebody to look at. And I think actually when my business coach really actually had us do this 15 years ago, it was looking at, how are you using it in your business? How can you expand on it? Are there things that you can add into your business or things you should be doing or not be doing that are more aligned with who you really are and how you show up in the world? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? I
think the self-awareness that comes from understanding what your inherent wiring is, the talent themes that you have, and then embracing those. Again, in both of our cases, we saw those and we went, oh, isn't that great? I like that person that is wired like this. And then deciding what do we want to do with those in order to just live out our days. How can we use our strengths in each of the situations, work relationships, projects that we have? But also, how can we improve on them and develop them into greater strengths? That's one of the reasons why I like the coaching thing. I've been certified as a Gallup StrengthsFinder coach for 7 years now. And it helps people I get to help people to figure out how to further develop those themes into real, true strengths. And so in your case, if you were a coaching client and we were talking about the strategic that you've mentioned, I would be saying, Cathy, one of the things you ought to do is you ought to set aside some time each day, just a few minutes, but to consider the issues that are in front of you, even your calendar, just so to speak, and to look and say, so what are the alternatives about how I could proceed? And then to select the best from among those. And again, fun for me, I get to actually watch you do that. Both of us, in fact, have time in the morning where we stop and we listen and we reflect on what has happened and where we're headed. And that allows us to fully exercise our strategic in that way. If both of us had top strengths of analytical or deliberative, then that process might look a little different. And yet we could still be as effective. We could still be as satisfied and joyful. So again, as people have a wildly number of different profiles, I was telling you this morning, you're not going to, for you to run into somebody who has your 5 strengths, your top 5 strengths, in that same order, the chances of doing that are 1 in 33 million. I'm just still floored at that number, but that's a Gallup number, well researched. For you to run into somebody with your 5 strengths, but not in that same order, in that top group, is 1 in 400,000. So people are wired so differently, and yet there's the opportunity to be successful in whatever context we're in if we know how to use those and lean into those and not focus so much on our weaknesses. I just spent way too many years of my life trying to fix the things that I'm not inherently good at. And with StrengthsFinder, I've learned how to manage those weaknesses by using my strengths. So the fact is, I'm not terribly analytical or deliberative, but I've learned how to use my strategic and my activator and my connectedness to manage those less strong talent themes.
Well, and don't you think too that reflects in our personality, right? I mean, I say that there's a gazillion coaches out there, right? And each one of us has different strengths, but then in the way we're working it. So somebody who's got that analytical, which I would guess that's in the very bottom of my list. I honestly don't know off the top of my head, but in the strategic, and then along with those other 5 that I've got with the positivity, and then the includer, and wanting to bring people along, and having the table gathering, and wanting to do strategy in a positive environment with them, and making sure that everybody is feeling seen and feeling heard. That belief piece of mine, where faith is my number 1 value, right? And so how does the belief, and bringing that more into my business, but not even belief of my higher power, which is God for me, but the belief in, a variety of different things, right? And so I think that also helps determine our personalities, along with our Enneagram and all the other assessments that we can take, including spiritual gifts. And if we're able to take all those together, which I feel like I'm able to move some of that together these days, which just brings me so much more joy in what I'm doing, because I'm really aligning myself with who I'm wired to be. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And again, pairing those strengths up of strategic and positivity as an example. You do a good job of maintaining confidentiality on behalf of your clients, but I get to hear little bits now and then, or you'll tell me a story of something without giving me names. And the fact that you can survey a situation and try and identify multiple alternatives when the person that's involved in that situation may be stuck. And they just don't know how to see the bigger picture because they're right in the middle of it. You get to come in with your strategic and say, there are multiple ways that you could go at this, and ask the questions to get them to discover those on their own. But you, with your particular profile, also do it with this amazing positivity. So for somebody who's feeling down and out, and I don't know whether I'm ever going to get through this, you bring your positivity, this contagious enthusiasm that's just wonderful compared with that strategic. There she goes. And I have to deal with this all the time.
If you're not on YouTube, you can't see me doing the dance, but yeah.
So it's a great combination of things. And yes, different coaches would have different styles, would do it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's really valuable out of StrengthsFinder, is that you identify what your strengths are, and then you intentionally live out of those. You intentionally involve those in how you approach issues and people and relationships.
Yep. Love it. Okay. So, we're talking about my strengths, and everybody listening is going to have different strengths. Why is this especially powerful for women who are building businesses, and for them to take them off? They haven't actually already done the StrengthsFinder assessment. Why might it be powerful for them to go ahead and go do that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's certainly not exclusive to women, but I do think that from some of the conversations we've had, that women entrepreneurs can get bogged down in comparison, in trying to say to themselves, I need to do what that person's doing. I need to market like that person is marketing. I need to lead like that person is leading. I need to communicate like that person. So I think what StrengthsFinder does in those situations, one of the things is it allows that person to go, this is who I am, and I get to live my life, personal, business, and all, out of these strengths. And I don't have to meet someone else's profile or expectations. I get to be me. I get to do this. There's a number of ways to lead and a number of ways to operate businesses, a number of ways even to have relationships. What I encourage people to do is be authentically them. And that's what StrengthsFinder does, is it says, hey, let's find out. We're not going to teach you to be some person other than who you are, but let's reveal how you're wired and who you are so that you can then go live authentically you. And while there are different ways, the best way to move through life, I think, is a true way, an authentic way for you.
Mm-hmm. I think as you're saying that too, I know we have a number of listeners who have teams, and they've got employees, they've got teams, and I would imagine that StrengthsFinder too, whether you know yours or whether you have your employees take it as well, so that you can understand where their strengths are, it would make a better leader, a better boss, an easier way of potentially working within your business and your employees.
That team aspect was the thing that drew me to StrengthsFinder, is that I got to see in the corporate world that I was working in how understanding how the different members of my team were wired could allow me to assign tasks differently, develop differently, choose how to make group decisions differently. And some of the strength, there's a strength called command. I don't particularly like that strength. I'm a pretty free spirit who doesn't like to be told what to do. And I had a colleague who had command, and he irritated me. And when we got down to where we could talk about it in the context of StrengthsFinder and use the same language, I got to appreciate who this guy was. Mm-hmm. And there are times in our corporate life where I value somebody significantly who has command. If the building is going up in flames, I want somebody who says, get your butt out the door. And so in many ways, it helped me in a team environment to appreciate other people, to not always have to see my approach as right. I lived too many years doing that, with apologies to all those people that I worked with, but to appreciate others and how they're wired differently. And I've had the pleasure of doing that in coaching situations where I sold real estate for a little bit, and I took a young couple that I was helping to buy their first home, and I did StrengthsFinder with them and actually had them share that with each other. And it was a thing of beauty as they discovered different strengths in each other that they knew that they didn't bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And so one was thinking future and one was thinking now. And they both recognized, boy, if I didn't have that other party in my life as we go through this fairly major life decision, I'd probably make a bad one. Mm-hmm. So it's really an interesting and valuable tool even in relationships.
Yeah. We were talking about that last night over dinner, I recall, the future part. So listen, for the people who are listening, what is one simple shift, one simple idea that you can leave them with today when it comes to StrengthsFinder?
Yeah, if I was coaching someone somewhere very early on in the conversation, we'd talk about how when we operate in our strengths, we feel energized. They are life-giving, is the phrase I like to use. And there are other things in our life that are life-draining to us.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage people, as a single thing that they might do today, is to start to be aware, reflect and be aware of what is it in their life that's giving them energy and what might be draining their energy. And again, when you tie that in with StrengthsFinder, then you get the opportunity to say, oh, I see, when I operate with this particular strength, which might be very low in my ranking, it is draining for me. I certainly have used that with people. There are people that are wonderfully life-giving for me and people that are somewhat draining. And I make choices of how I spend my time and invest my relationships that way. I don't think that's selfish. I think people get a better Mark Johnson when he's hanging with people who give him energy, give him life. And I want to do that for other people too. So stopping and reflecting, looking for those energy areas. I certainly would encourage, it's not a selfish thing because you can do this on your own, but I would certainly encourage, if you haven't already, to go ahead and take the StrengthsFinder assessment. It's not expensive. It doesn't take a long time. The reports that they generate are very, very likely to give you some incredible insights that, like Cathy and I, you will go, wow, that's me. And then if you chose to have somebody coach you from that point on to say, now how do I take maximum value out of this, then I could do that. There's a few thousand certified coaches around the country.
Well, I'm super excited because as part of what you're doing here over in Yes I Can Living, so anybody who is coming into my private coaching programs for 2026, that is going to be included, because we're going to be looking at, you said about what drains you and what gives you energy. That is all about being in alignment, right? So when we're looking at StrengthsFinder, we're going to be doing spiritual gifts. We're going to spiritual gifts assessment. We're looking at your values. We're looking at your vision and how you bring that all together, right? And when you're doing my 3-month coaching program, when you bring that all together, it just gives you a foundation to be able to lead from, to be able to move forward from, to be able to be confident and clear in. So I'm super excited about doing that. And I will put in the show notes below, if you're watching this on iTunes or on YouTube or wherever, the link that you can go to Gallup. There's no affiliate. There's nothing like that. It's we're not making any money on it. It's just a huge, wonderful resource. Mark is stepping in. If you're not doing the coaching with me, he is also offering individual. He can do a coaching session with him just on StrengthsFinders. StrengthsFinder. And so you can reach out to me and I can forward the email. Or what's your email, Mark?
It's Mark for Growth. 4 is spelled out FOR at gmail.com.
At gmail.com, yeah. So if you have any questions about him, send him an email, follow him on social media, follow us on social media. I'm super excited about just what's ahead for us and for everyone in 2026. There is lots of opportunity. There's lots of possibilities. If you are aligned and feeling that energy in what it is you're doing, your business can be a huge success. Your life can be a huge success. It's just continuing to move forward one day at a time and following the steps as you move forward, because we don't get the next one revealed until we take that next step. Oh, so much. All right. We've got wonderful podcasts coming up in the next few weeks. We've got the Faith Fueled event coming up in Anaheim, California on February 27th of 2026. It is a full day rockin' conference for women entrepreneurs. I'm telling you, you got to check out the website, faithfueledevent.com. Again, in the show notes. It can be a day that will inspire you beyond imagination. It will be an experiential event like you have never experienced before. Would love to see you there. And then, of course, there's always our Call to the Table membership group. So I hope you will check that out. We would love to have you on one of our calls, our trainings, or even our weekly prayer circle. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I think it's date night now, isn't it?
It is date night. Let's turn this off and go.
Yeah, it's date night. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for watching. Sending out big Yes I Can hugs to all of you. And until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to Yes I Can Living. If today's episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. And if you're craving deeper connection and real conversation, I'd love to invite you to the table, our community of faith-fueled women building businesses and lives they love. Go to yesicanliving.com and click on The Table. See you there.